Hey guys, it's me, Tyler, and this is Dustin.
But why are you whispering? That's so weird.
Because we have a very special episode of stuff. It's a Halloween episode.
Oh shit, that's right. We don't want to wake up the ghosts.
That's right. We're going to be having some ghost stories to tell you guys.
And not just any ghost stories. They're going to be dueling ghost stories. You guys are going to get to pick which one's the most scary.
Yeah, so make sure you get your blankets.
Turn off those lights and light up some candles and snuggle in.
So, on today's episode, like you heard at the beginning, we're going to tell ghost stories. And these aren't just like, putting a light up your face telling a fake story. This is stuff that actually has happened to the both of us. And
they're all pretty freaky. I heard his a while back. I don't remember them exactly, so I'm probably going to get scared right here. And probably the same. He's probably going to pee his pants.
Probably. What we want you guys to do, the watchers, is comment and tell us what story, who had the best ghost story, and you can even tell us which one was your favorite, whatever. And also on top of that, if you feel free, below in the comments, tell us something that happened to you guys.
Or make a video and link it. That'd be cool too.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and get this started off. My first one, this is the more tame of the two. I was working at Subway, and it was kind of a slow afternoon, and me and my coworker were in the back, and we were prepping food, like slicing tomatoes and stuff, doing dishes, that type of thing. And in the back, there was this little monitor, like a 9-inch screen, where it would just show the lobby, like closed-circuit TV. And so, you can see when a customer comes in. So I'm washing the dishes, and she's prepping food, something like that. And we heard the chime go off, so we looked at the camera. And we saw this little girl run in this little dress, like she had a little sundress, and by herself. And so the person I was working with, she was a girl, and she liked kids. So she ran up, and the way it was set up, there's like the little counter like at every Subway, but she crouched down, and there's like a little ledge on the side, and she went to go to scare the little kid as a joke. So she ran up there, and I'm kind of right behind her, and she runs down there and pops up and says, "Boo!" We look, and I swear, nobody there. And we both look at each other like we're just puzzled and shocked, and then we kind of were discussing it. And we were like, did we both just see that? And we heard the little girl, she was laughing and stuff. Like, it was so weird and bizarre. Like, we didn't feel threatened at any time, but it was very, very freaky. It was weird. That's my first one. That's the tame one.
Now, do we get paid for burning up Subway? Will they pay us?
No, but I will see that you get a 6-inch or possibly a foot long.
You're talking about sandwiches, I hope.
Lots of beef.
So my family in general has like a huge history of weird ghost shit happening all the time. Mainly my sister, for some reason, that bitch is haunted. Like, she just, I don't know. So I will start off with a tame one, and that's my only experience with something that happened with my sister. And that was one morning I could hear in my room crying, and it kind of startled me because I thought something was wrong with my mom or dad or sister or even our dog.
How old were you?
I don't know. I want to say like 8 or 9 maybe.
Oh.
And so I left the room, and I heard the crying coming from my parents' room, and I go in there, and it's my sister who was crying. And from what I understand, if I remember correctly, my sister's she has like a little wind-up doll, and it started playing music by itself, for one, and she also had this little organ that started playing music by itself. And I could be getting these stories like mixed up. One of those happened, like either the doll or the organ. And she saw somebody walk down the hallway, or my dad saw somebody walk down the hallway. I don't remember which one. And I've heard these stories before, and as a little kid, it was scary, but I didn't believe that it was real. Like, I just thought, people were trying to scare me. But as that happened, I could hear, we all heard, not just me, somebody walking in the hallway. You get that soft carpet sound that you hear when someone's walking? And it's kind of like a gliding almost. And that is my tame story.
What, like, when you heard that gliding, what was your, like, how'd you feel? Like, did you feel like...
Very, obviously scared. I was like...
Frying, where you're like, the hairs on the back of your neck standing up?
Yeah, and I thought it was our dogs, but they were in the same room with us. And it was like, I don't know, it's weird. That's like the what I've experienced personally. I could tell you other stories I heard from my family, but we don't have enough time for that.
And I've actually heard Tyler's mom tell the story, so it's not just him bullshitting you.
Yeah.
So now...
I will say, though, everywhere my sister goes, it follows her pretty much. Even if she spends the night at a friend's house, or friends have seen someone who looks just like her, because my mom had a miscarriage of her twin, my sister's twin. So that's weird, too. So. Maybe
it's something like that. So here's this one, every time I tell the story, I get chills in the back of my neck. This is like pretty crazy. So I worked at a movie theater for a long time, as many of you might know. If you don't, whatever. So it was kind of like in late September, and that's, if you don't know, that's when movie theaters are typically pretty slow. Summer's over, kids are back to school. It was like a weeknight, so there weren't a lot of people in the theater. Our theater was particularly busy, but this one was not. So we do this thing called theater checks, where we go into the theater while the movie's going to count, how many people are in there, and make sure the tickets match up, no one snuck in, and to make sure guests aren't being unruly. So I was kind of doing that while doing the trash and stuff. It was the end of the night. We're doing the wrap-up stuff. And we have walkies, and it's a pretty big theater. We're walking around. And the managers call me from the box office saying, hey, can you go into theater number 8? And theater number 8 was a movie called Sky High. It was like about a high school with superpowers or something. I never saw it. But there's a woman in there, and she's being disruptive. And this is, if you have ever been to a movie theater or worked in one, this is very common. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go in there and tell them to be quiet. And usually they would, So I go in there and I walk in with my little theater check flashlight. There's like maybe 10 people in there scattered about. In the very middle of the theater, there is like a group of like 4 people, look like a family. And then there was a space, and then there was this woman, and then there was a little kid. Now, what was weird about it was if they were all together, they would have been sitting with no spaces. And if they weren't together, they wouldn't have been sitting so close, because it was a massive theater that held like 300 people. So it was kind of weird, the spacing. I was like, whatever. And the whole time, as soon as I saw this woman, looking here is where the movie is. This is a little boy, since he looks like a little boy. The whole time she's just doing this, and she's talking. I can hear her speaking, but I couldn't make out any of the words. That's not really uncommon, because the sound from the movie is pretty loud.
And you said she was an older woman?
Oh, like she was probably like mid-40s. The way this woman looked, she was really thin, and her face was really like narrow and long and almost moon-shaped. It was weird. It looked like a classic witch. I mean, not saying anything rude or anything, but that's how it looked. And the whole time she's just looking like this. So I walk up there, flashlight, so I'm getting close to them, and normally a normal person would turn and look and see what's going on. The whole time she didn't. She's talking to the little boy. I'm right next to her. I still can't make out what she's saying. So I'm all, excuse me, ma'am. I'm the woman now. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, you are.
Well, I'm talking what I was saying, but I'm being the woman. Excuse me, ma'am. Could you please keep it down? You're disrupting some other patrons. And she goes like this. Okay. And then, so I was like, I got chills instantly.
You've never been good with the ladies, though.
No, never. So I was like, okay, that's really creepy. So I was like, I had work to do, so I'm like, I'm going to go out. And I was kind of like feeling a little weird. So I go take out some trash or something, and I get about 10 minutes later, I get a call on the radio, and they're like, hey, can you go back into number 8? The woman in there is still being disruptive. And I'm like, well, yeah, sure, no problem. Fuck. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I was a little creeped out. I'm not really afraid of a lot. I can handle myself in a fight. But that kind of creeped me out. So, I go back in there the whole time. And this time I walk in. Same thing's going on. She's looking like this. I decide, screw it. I'm not going to let this woman push me around. She's probably some weirdo druggie or something. So I stand at the bottom of the theater and kind of like stare her down like I'm mad dogging her. And the whole time she's doing this, and I'm not doing any movement to indicate to like get her attention. And all of a sudden, she's like talking to the little boy. She turns to me and looks like this. I'm getting chills right now. And she stares me down. And as soon as like our eyes meet, I can't move. And I'm like being held or whatever. And then I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Devil's Advocate, when the people are possessed, their face like shifts and distorts. It did that. Now, an explanation that I came up with to explain it was maybe it was like the shadows hitting your face or something, but that I believe, I don't know, the way I believe
the
is
complete
something
opposite that it
yeah.
did.
That's like a way to explain it, but that's not what I think happened. So, and I'm paralyzed. It feels like I can't move, and then so I'm like panicking. My heart's racing, and then so I close my eyes and I say something, not verbatim, but something to the effect of, "Dear God, please shield me or please protect me." The split second that I finished that sentence, the woman could not look at me. She instantly stared down and went like this, and I could move. Now, it could be a figment of my imagination, but I'm still getting chills to this day when I tell the story. Every time I told it 50 times or more. And
you've worked at how long did you work at the theater? Did you never like see that lady ever again?
Yeah, never saw her again. She didn't make a peep. I left a few seconds later. She never made a peep. I didn't like. It was the last show, so we didn't clean the theater. The night crew did, so I didn't have to see her again. But she didn't make another peep. We got no more complaints, and I just thought it was so weird that the split second that I finished the last syllable of the last word and put the period, she looked down and couldn't look at me.
And you worked there like how long?
Oh, I'm sorry, 7 or 8 years.
That whole entire time, never saw her again.
Never saw her again.
Just in your nightmares.
No, I never had a nightmare. I think that basically she was put in her place. So that's my most freaky story ever.
All right.
That's kind of long, sorry.
Mine probably won't be as long. It had been, I want to say, 8th grade. My family decided to go on a trip to Utah. And I was, have I ever told you this one?
I don't
the
think
The hotel story? All right. So it was my mom, my dad, my sister, and I. And we had a 2-bedroom hotel room. And my mom and sister slept in one bed. And my dad and I slept in another. And on the end of the bed, like kind of not really next to the bed, but like across the room, but in front of the bed, there was a table. And I remember having my glass of lemonade there. And that comes later in the story. I'm just explaining it to you guys.
He peed his pants, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I was up, 100% up. I rolled over and I looked at my dad and I saw a weird creature. It was a human. Like, it was shaped like a human. It had eyes, nose, and mouth and everything. And its eyes were pure white. They were, like, glowing. And it was crawling over my dad, like, kind of like, you know, how you see in the movies with their arms out like that.
Yeah.
And it scared the shit out of me. I jumped out of bed. I knocked over the lemonade on the table, and that's how I know I was up, because I jumped up and actually knocked stuff over. I woke my family up, and the way I could describe this thing, it looked kind of like an orc from Lord of the Rings, but it was kind of a little bit more human looking in the face.
Yeah.
But it kind of just looked...
Correct me if I'm wrong, the way you're explaining it sounds like that movie The Descent, those creatures... Kind of like almost? Kind of,
yeah. If I remember what they... Yeah, kind of... And this is way before that movie came out, so I'm not, like, having nightmares about it or anything. And it was just, like... I was 100% up, and I know that I saw it. I wasn't, like, tripping out or anything. And every story that my family's ever told, it's never been anything, like, evil. It's always just, like, there's a spirit there. That thing was, like... That was definitely evil. And the worst part of it was when I woke up the next morning... Surprised I was able to go back to sleep. I took a shower, and I got out of the shower, and I wiped the window, or the mirror, because you know how it fogs up when you're taking a shower, and my eyes are, like, completely white. There's not a single, like, pupil or anything in it. Yeah, exactly.
Pretty freaky.
And my head's gonna turn in a second. That's my story. Not as long, but...
Well, another time, because when his mom was talking about kind of the first one... she mentioned that, like, his sister would complain about, like, waking up and not being able to move, and that's pretty common. And, like, there's, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like a folktale, or maybe it's a real phenomenon where, like, there's a black cloaked figure, like, holding you down. And I've heard, like, 2 or 3 other people tell similar stories to that. And I don't know, I don't know, obviously, what happened, but that's another, like, addition to that first story you told. I'd never heard the... hotel one. That was pretty spooky.
Yeah, it was weird. But what you're saying, actually, when my aunt, not all the time, but when my aunt comes up and visits, she always has that issue where it feels like someone's on top of her. And it's only, she says she never gets anywhere else unless she's at my house.
Crazy.
Yeah, I have a lot of weird stuff at my house. I mean, my mom will be sitting there and she'll see someone standing by the refrigerator, and it's not me. I'm not constantly by the refrigerator like everyone thinks I am. But just like weird shit like that. Not necessarily scary or anything. I mean, it's a little spooky, but
it just
at the same time, I think it's somebody, either my sister's twin, but not something evil. I mean, I'm going to tell a quick one real quick.
Okay.
When I used to get scared and sleep in my mom's room like a couple weeks ago. No, this is when I was way younger. I remember actually, she has like blinds where like, the big, not like blinds like a regular window, but a sliding door blinds.
Yeah, like the tall ones.
They were swinging back and forth, and I saw a big buff figure, and it wasn't you. It wasn't you this time.
I'm normally in his mom's room.
Standing outside the window, and it had like spikes all over its shoulders. It was weird to say.
We're either like crazy, or like we're being stalked by some evil creatures. I want to tell another quick story. This one was actually the time I've been the most scared in my entire life, but it has nothing to do with supernatural. My cousin and I were staying at my aunt's house. She was at the time working in Iraq as a truck driver, and he worked night shifts, and her house was way out in the middle of the country, like total, like in the middle of nowhere. So there's no one around. I'm sleeping fine or whatever. I wake up about 12 midnight, 1, and I hear people outside. I'm like, Blake shouldn't be home yet. I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I hear a guy's voice, and he's like, hey, get the guns. And I was just like instantly like just scared shitless. And where I was sleeping, there was guns in the house, but there wasn't anything close to defend myself. I couldn't make it by the time I heard him trying to get in the front door. And by the time I could go get to where the guns were, they would have got me. So what I did was I went and looked in the closet, and I found some golf clubs. And I was kind of hiding on the side of the bedroom door waiting for them to come in to kind of like smack the shit out of the first person and possibly grab their gun. So while this is all going on, I heard the most beautiful sound ever. It was the most relieving sound. I heard my cousin Stephanie, her voice, not in a weird way obviously, but basically her and her boyfriend decided to come up to the house and stay the night in the middle of the night because they were going to go shooting the next morning. And once I realized that, it was like the biggest relief ever. I was that was the most scared I've ever been.
God, you're such a pussy.
No, dude, that's crazy.
That would scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, it's just like I heard some guy's voice who I wasn't familiar with because I never met her boyfriend. It's like, hey, get the guns. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff. Recently, the 3 lights in my mom was sleeping out in the living room, and apparently she heard a light switch go on, and all 3 of the lights went on by themselves, and nobody was in the house.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't 100% believe in stuff like that, but also at the same time, when shit like that happens, it's like, what else can it be? Like,
I believe because of my experiences, but it's up for everyone to decide. So I think that's about it. Do you have anything else to add, or?
Yeah, they're not as scary anymore. I mean, I tell them so many times it doesn't even affect me.